Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This hadith we were doing here, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we discussed in this lengthy hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam speaks about several fitan that will take place. The first one we discussed was fitanul, fitnatul ahlasi, that was ahlas is jama of hils, something that is stuck on the ground. Here, harabun wa harabun. I've explained that. The long story of Abdullah ibn Zubayr, how he broke away from Yazid Muawiyah, etc., and how he established his independent sultanate. Then we discussed the next one is fitna to sarra, that we started discussing that yesterday. We said fitna to sarra. It could be something which is secret, or it could mean something which is where the sirrun means happiness. It could refer to where there was an abundance of wealth, etc. And then we explained that this person here, Shah, will you explain the person by the name of Mukhtar ibn Ubaid as-Thaqafi? He claimed to be from amongst the followers. And I told you, these people that claim to be, they say, the people that say that Ali was more virtuous than Abu Bakr and Umar, they call themselves Shi'ani Ali. Nahnu Shi'ani Ali. Even if you look at this, Hezbollah today that is fighting the Israel, they say we are Shi'ani Ali. Nahnu Shi'atu Ali, they say, we are the followers of Ali. So this is basically just a ploy where they try to say that it sounds fancy that we are, but in fact they got their own ulterior motives. So this I just mentioned yesterday, but just to bring you up to speed, we will mention this part again here. That when the people of Kufa, they abandoned Hazrat Ali when they abandoned Hazrat Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. They called him and said, come, we will support you. But then they abandoned him. And then, so he wanted to make capital out of this particular incident. He said, let us take revenge against the qatilin. Let us take revenge against those people who killed Hazrat Hussein, who made him shaheed, right? Then there was another person also in Kufa by the name of Muslim ibn Aqil. And he was friends with this person. And then the third person here was also a name of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. Now you must remember this name, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. It will feature also prominently in future as we go through. Then I told you, get the Tawabun, those people that were outwardly regretful, remorseful for the killing of Hussein. They are the people of Kufa that abandoned Hussein, and they call them the Tawabun. And these are the people that, they beat themselves up. They do what they call it matam. They call it matam, where they hit themselves with chains. And apparently it is as a form of punishment for abandoning Hussein, right? Radiallahu ta'ala anhum. So they call themselves the Tawabun. So they said, we're going to make tawbah, we're going to beat ourselves up, and we are going to take revenge. We are going to take revenge for the killing of Hussein. So, whenever there's an unfortunate incident, then you find people trying to further their own agendas. Like, for example, simple example, I give example, if me and you have a problem, for example, me and you, we have a problem, something happened, there's somebody else that doesn't like me. They say, oh, there's a problem. So they'll come to you and say, yeah, see, this guy told you, he's not a good guy. See what he done to you now. I will stand with you. I will stand with you. And this what he's doing to you is not correct. It is oppressive. He's zulm. He's making zulm upon you. And if you want me, I will support you and I will help you, etc., etc. Right? So people, they have their own agendas. They have their own nefarious agendas. So something similar that happened here is that this person, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, he had his own agenda. He had probably leadership ambitions, and he wanted to sow seeds of discontent, etc., etc., amongst the Muslims. So he wanted to make capital out of the incident of Karbala. He wanted to make capital out of the incident of Karbala. He thought there's opportunity. And he began making, so he saw now there is an unstable period in the history of Islam. He began making unfounded claims. And when he started with this nonsense, in fact, it's mentioned that the governor of Kufa, because he was based in Kufa, remember the Islamic capital moved towards Kufa. He caught up with him and he actually imprisoned him. But as Ibn Umar, for some or the other, he interceded on his behalf. And he, on his request, he was released from the prison. And so when he came out of prison, he came out like, so to say, like a hero. He came out like a hero. And then he hooked up with the people of the Tawabun. And in fact, they elected him as a leader. And this is where he claimed, he said he's from the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's from the Ahl Bayt, and that he want to avenge the blood of his family, that is as Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he actually then started a war with the governor of Kufa, because now he had a big Jamaat, he had all the Tawabin with them, etc. And then he was able to defeat the army in Kufa. And he managed to gain control. He took control of Kufa. As mentioned here, this is actually the fitna that was, that many innocent people were killed in the process. Many innocent people were killed in the process. And this is the main thing, which is about the fitna of Sarra. Whoever came out to oppose him, he immediately killed him. And this was, now remember, this was more or less the same time where Abdullah ibn Zubair was in control of Makkatul Mukarramah. And his early stages where he had his khilafat that was expanding. Remember, we discussed this yesterday, the fitna of, what was that, the fitna of Akhlas, right? And as Abdullah ibn Zubair sent his brother Musa ibn Zubair to Basra, right? He sent his brother to Basra. So he was actually, his brother was the governor of Basra, and he sent him to go sort out Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. And he managed to kill Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, and then this was the end of the fitna. So the relevance of the story is this here. We speak Summa fitna to Sarra'i. The ulama say it referred to the fitna of what he caused when he took charge of Kufa and he killed many innocent people. And that was obviously because, and he done it under the pretext that he was to avenge the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But his whole idea was he had political ambitions, right? His thing was he had political ambitions, and he had, and why the ulama say this referred to this incident, because he clearly said, the hadith says here, فتنة السراء دخنها من تحني قدمي رجل من أهل بيتي يزعم أنه مني وليس مني إنما أولياء المتقين. So this is the reason why the ulama linked this fitna, because he done the same thing. He claimed that he was from the Ahlul Bayt. What he done? He claimed he was from the Ahlul Bayt, and he said he's from the family of Rasulullah and Nabi, and practically, so even though maybe by lineage he could be somehow related, but his actions were إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. His actions were un-Islamic, and so because his actions were un-Islamic, he's not from amongst me, right? So this from, you learn from this man. I told you before many times, man batta bi amalu lam yusri nasabuhu. That Allah Ta'ala told him, he's not your son. His actions are not good. His actions are not pious. So dakhnuha, that it says dakhnuha min tahti qadamaya. I tell you, dakh means like it's murkiness, because we come from dukhan, right? Its murkiness will come from the fact that he is dakhnuha min tahti, from beneath my 2 feet. It will, in other words, the fitna will stem from a person that claims he is from my family. It will come from a person that claims he's from my family, whilst he's not from my family. So Nabi Sallam clearly said that my family are people who are pious people. They says, "Innama awliya'i al-muttaqun." Now, interesting here, like I told you, I mentioned to you that ulama can only comment on what they saw. Ulama can comment on what they saw. Like this happened, like you say, we refer. So tomorrow it happens as such, another fitna comes and it applies more, it is more applicable to this. Then it refer to this, or it could refer to interest, something to happen in the future. So now there's an interesting thing here. You know that the Muslim world for 600 years was under the Ottoman Khilafat, because Dawlatul Usmaniya, right? Are you with me? And then the British, I spoke to you about this. The British, they were eyeing the lands of the Muslims. They were eyeing the resources of Muslims, the natural resources. They were eyeing the minerals. And they obviously knew they can only do this break up, if they break up the Ottoman Khilafat, if they fragment the Muslim Ummah, as long as the Muslim Ummah is united under one Khalifa, it's a problem for them. So for many, many years, they tried to fragment for several decades. It was a slow process. So until the beginning of the 20th century, Makkatul Mukarramah, Medina, Hijaz, all of that, it was still under the hands of the Ottomans. And the Ottomans were staunch Mukallis. You would have a Hanafi Mufti there, you would have a Shafi Mufti there, you would have Maliki Mufti there, everything. But as I said, now remember, America is currently the superpower, but before this, the British was the superpower. The British, they even, in fact, they were the superpower. That's why it was said that the sun never set on the British Isles. They controlled so many lands that at some point in time, the sun was up, in their lands. You understand what I'm saying? So, so they were the forerunners that wanted to break up the Ottoman Khilafat, and they are the ones that actually gave away Palestine to the Jews, right? So the age-old tactic, what they call divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. If you got a group together, you divide them, you create a problem between them, and you let them fight amongst each other, and you let them do the dirty work, right? So their whole plan was to dissolve, break up, fragment the Dawlat Ismania, because once the Dawlat Ismania is broken up and you got nation states, then you can play around with the Ummah. Then you can play around as they are playing around with the Ummah today. So the Shareef of Makkah was appointed by the Dawlat Ismania. They began bribing them. And then there was the tribes that lived on the outskirts, like, the Bedouins. And these were people under the influence of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. They were like, extreme Salafis. So they were living in the outskirts. So they used them to remove the Ottomans. They bribed them. They bribed them with money. So they were living in Najd. They were living in Najd, far from Makkah to Mukarramah, and they were followers of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. That's why today you refer to the extreme Salaf as Wahhabis, because he was like a revivalist among them. He was like a revivalist amongst them. According to them now, we the Sunnis, whatever we do is bid'ah. We make tawassul, we do this. So he was a revivalist. The interesting thing is, if you read the history of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who they venerate and they honor, he was even a fringe person. He was not accepted as mainstream amongst their own people. He was considered to be an extreme. But anyway, he was ready to do the bidding of the British. He was ready to be the henchman. He was ready to be the stooge. He was ready to do the dirty work. And he was ready to rise up against the Ottomans. So here it's mentioned here in the Kitab, it says you had the Shareef of Makkah, who was like the representative. So they're saying this rising, these people, the Shareef of Makkah and the followers of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, etc., they were in the pockets of the British. The British was bribing them with huge amount of money. He said the Shareef of Makkah, he's called Shareef Hussein, he used to get 500,000 pounds a month. And the Al Saud family, which is had agreement with the Muhammad bin Wahab family. Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab and the Al Saud family had an agreement that they will work together to remove the Ottoman. And the Saud was controlled politically, and the Wahab family, what you call the Al Shaykh family, they were controlled theologically, right? So they were on the payroll of the British, and they worked to unseat the Ottomans. They worked to unseat the Ottomans, and eventually it did happen. They removed them. The Ottomans had to leave from there, etc., etc. That we discussed it, right? So the fitna of them being, so that, you remember it says sarra means the fitna where money will flow abundantly. So you say, so someone must say this refer to that money that flow that the British used to bribe them. And so the interesting thing is, this Wahhabis today or the Salafis, whatever, they are in control of the Haramain Sharifain, etc. But they were a fringe living on the outskirts. They were not the mainstream in the cities. They are British installed. They are because they were ready to do the British dirty work, and it is remove the Ottomans, the Khilafah, the Khalifa, and like this. So what they done is like this. What the British done in all the different places. They told the local people, "You rise up against the Ottomans." Like and then we when we collapse the Ottoman Empire, we'll make you people in charge. Like that, so we'll make in Qatar, we'll make the Thani family in charge. In Jordan, we make the King Hussein of Jordan, we make him in charge. In Egypt, we'll make this person in charge. In Bahrain, we'll make. So they were always tribes there. They had the leaders. All these people, they had the tribes from the time of from before. Even in times Islam came, but they still had the tribes and they had the tribal leaders. So they promised them, all of them, you rise up against the Ottoman Khilafat. Why should you be ruled? Why should you be ruled by them? You can be your own ruler. Help us dismantle the Ottoman Khilafat, and you will become the ruler, and you can rule yourself. So this is what he's saying. That this is what that is according to this author, the Shari said that the fitna to Sarah referred to this fitna of the where the Ottoman Khilafat was dismantled and was removed from there. Okay, so then if you go further on, so it says, "Innama awliya al-muttaqun." So we got two explanations. We said it refers either to the Mukhtar al-Thaqafi or it refers to the dismantling of the Ottoman Khilafat. But how do you not know? Maybe 100 years down the line, 200 years down, another incident will happen, and another author will come say, no, this fits it more. This fits it more. Allah Ta'ala knows best. It could be because remember, the Nabi only gave a certain amount of details. So now the ulama are trying their best to identify what this fitna. Right. So then the hadith goes on, ثم يصطلح الناس على رجل كورق على ضلع. Then people will make sulah upon a person, and this person kawarakin, he will be. This is an expression of showing where somebody is under total control. Somebody is under total control. Warakin refer to like you have a firm foot on a person's rib cage. Dala'in means, in other words, imagine when you've downed somebody, you've dropped him to the ground, and you got your foot on the rib, so you've got complete control over him. So what this means here is that after this fitna, there will be such a leader that he will be weak leader. People will be controlling him. He won't have complete control over his people. He won't have complete control over his people. He will be a weak leader. So I told you that's what he said. كَضِلَعٍ عَلَى وَرِكٍ. Right. So some ulama say this refer to, as I said, there's no doubt in this that Kawarakin ala Dilakin refers to a weak Khalifa, a weak ruler. Shah Walila Muhaddis Delvi says this refers to Marwan ibn Hakam. Now, Marwan al-Hakam was the same person, remember, at the time of Abdullah ibn Zubair, remember. So, technically speaking, if you look at it, if we say this refers to Marwan ibn Hakam, so this happened before the story of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. Now, because remember we said, one actually, ثم فتنة السراء. We said the fitna of Sarah referred to Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, that person who claimed that he was to assist the Ahlul Bayt, he was to take revenge, but he had his own, what you call it. So there we got a problem that if fitna to Sarah referred to Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, and yeah, according to this, we say yes, Talih al-Nas referred to Marwan ibn Hakam, but Marwan ibn Hakam was before Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. You understood the point I'm trying to make? You sure that fitna to Sarah referred to Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, right? But and يصطلح الناس على رجل كورق على ضلع, that refers to Marwan ibn Hakam. So the answer, if we, so yeah, Shah Walila Muhaddith, no, if you look at it, this refers more to Marwan ibn Hakam. But how we can reconcile between the outwardly contradictory order is this, that we say that maybe his fitna started before, right? The fitna started before, and the culmination was after that. That's why Nabi also mentioned it after Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. So it's beginning the decline in his Khilafah, because remember, at the same time that Abdullah ibn Zubair, he also took control of Makkah al-Mukarramah. So although it's mentioned after, but it started before like that. So that is the reconciliation between that, right? So yeah, this Marwan ibn Hakam, I was telling you, he was a very weak leader, and he was easily manipulated. Hence, his Khilafat is referred to as Kawarakin ala Dila'in. Right. Then the next one we're going to do now, the next fitna, so that, right. ثم فتنة الدهيماء لا تضع أحد من هذه الأمة إلا لطمته لطمة. Then the next was the fitna of Duhaima. It does not leave anyone from this ummah except that it will slap it a slapping. This was now another very sad era in the history of Islam, and this is what they refer to as the invasion of the Baghdad by the Mughals. Baghdad was then, it was the major center of the Muslims, it was the capital of the Muslims. Duhaima is ism tasghir of Dahma'u, right? Al-fitnatul azma'u al-tamatul ayba'u, right? So Duhaima means something which is black, it is dark. So it was a very, very sad and dark time in the history of Islam. If you think, well, we'll give you the details of it now as we go through it, inshallah. If you think what you see happening today in Gaza or happening in Beirut, this is still a picnic. It's a picnic compared to what happened to Baghdad. We'll discuss this. Shah Waliullah also said this referred to the invasion of Baghdad by the Mughals. So this is the history in the year 700 years after Hijri, when the Muslim world was controlled by the Abbas. Remember, I explained to you this. First, you had the Khulafa al-Rashidin, right? After the Khulafa al-Rashidin, you had the Muawiyah, and they started the Umayyads. And after the Umayyads, the Banu Abbas was the family of the Abbas. Now, they were the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So they felt they are more worthy of the leadership, and they exterminated the Umayyads. Interesting history. One of the princes from there escaped, and he went to Spain, and he established an Umayyad dynasty in Spain. But the Abbasids, they continue ruling the Muslim world from Baghdad. So you had Andalusia that was under the control of the Umayyads, and only that place was like a separate fiefdom. And on the other hand, you had Baghdad, it was controlled by the Banu Abbas. So until 700, years after Hijri, the Banu Abbas was, rather the Muslim world, was still controlled by the Umayyads and by the Abu Abbas. And Baghdad was a huge city. It was one of the biggest, most modernized, mechanized cities in the world. Libraries, hospitals, etc. And at that point in time, the ruler was a person by the name of Mu'tasim Billah. He was the Khalifa. But here is mentioned because they had monarchy, they didn't have Khilafat where a Khalifa is elected. They would have monarchy where the son would succeed the father, etc. It wasn't a very strong leader. So he wasn't elected, so to say, on merit. It was not meritocracy. So he wasn't such a sharp, astute leader. And he had a Khalifa by the name of Al-Qama. And unfortunately, this Al-Qama, he was a undercover secret Shia, extreme Shia. And the Shias, the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they're always conniving behind the back. They won't do it openly, but they always can. If you look at the history of the Ottoman Empire, several places you'll find that they connived against the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So because he hated, that's why even today they say that the Shias that are helping the Sunnis, they've got their own agendas, they've got their own plots, they've got their own agendas, and they've got their own plots. So anyway, be that as it may, because he despised the Sunnis, he preferred that the Sunnis be dislodged, that the Khilafat of the Sunnis be destroyed. So this is why they rather prefer a non-Muslim to be in charge. They'll give preference to a kafir over a Sunni. So he worked to undermine. At the same time, the Mughals were on the rise. Now you must have heard about Genghis Khan. They were powerful. How they grew, and they grew from a nomadic tribe into a powerful force that were destroying everything that came in front of them. So at this point in time, as remember, the Ottomans were still not there. It was still the Banu Abbas. The Ottomans hasn't risen to power as yet. They only came after this. So that the Mughals, the Genghis Khan, and although Genghis Khan himself passed away, but he had a grandson by the name of Halaku Khan. Halaku Khan. So they were running rampage. They were going from city to city. They were good horsemen. They were destroying everything, conquering places and moving on, etc., etc. So this person, Halaku Khan, for his hate for the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, he plotted against the Sunnis, and he wanted to orchestrate the destruction of the Muslims, of the Muslim Khilafat, of the Banu Abbasid. And he wanted, maybe rather, his idea was that rather a Shia will come into power. If he can unseat he can weaken the Sunnis, then he can get a Shia to come to power. So he made contact with the Mughals, and I thought at that time the Mughals were the most powerful. They were running rampage. Nobody were unstoppable force. Nobody could stop them. They were conquering all over the show. Eventually, they were stopped by the Mamluks in Egypt at Ain Jalut. The Mamluks were also people that were initially slaves and they became free, but they managed to come in control in Egypt. And at the place of Ain Jalut, they were stopped by the Mamluks. And this is now before the rise of the Ottoman Empire. But anyway, so this for this few hundred years, they were running a riot in the whole of Asia, and they were a nomadic tribe. So he made contact. I told you, Genghis Khan was the founding father of this, so to say, dynasty or whatever. But he had a son by the name of Halaku Khan, and he invited him and he told him, look here, the Muslims are the weakest now, etc., etc. There's a ripe time for you to take them out. Generally, they would fear because remember, they were a nomadic tribe. Baghdad was a huge city, had huge armies, had infrastructure, everything. So they were scared of the Muslim. They were scared of the Muslim empire. But what he done is he said, no, 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 this is the right time. I will help you to bring the Muslims down. Because for hundreds of years now, remember, a great deal of expansion took place in the time of the Abbasids. Islam went far and wide into Asia, all that type of things. So first thing he done is, because he was the trusted, so to say, wazir or minister of the Khalifa, they tried to send the armies to the different lands, so that Baghdad it can be least protected. Maybe one army was here, one army was there, etc., etc. So maybe they just had a basic force there in Baghdad. So then at that point in time, this Al-Qama, he told, Halaku Khan, look here, if you actually want to attack the Muslims, this is the best time. This is the best time because um, we most of our armies are out, and this is our most vulnerable time. And he even done this year. He even done this year. What he done is he told Halaku Khan that there is prediction in our books. In our books, there's a prediction that the Muslim empire will be destroyed at the hands of the Mughals. So this was a lie, obviously. It was a lie. So this was to entice him. And he made a lot of Shias also write letters encouraging them that come, this is the time. And he said, there's a prediction in our books that this Muslim Khilafat will be destroyed by the Shias. And I think now the time is right. And then at the same time, also, there was another Shia. His name was Nasiruddin Tusi. Nasiruddin Tusi. And he also invited them to come. So, so this was the idea that if we destroy the Muslim Khilafat, then the Shias, and it's mentioned also there were the Alawi Shias, that is the worst type of Shia. Those are the Shias that believe that Allah Ta'ala came into the form of Hazrat Ali. So when Hazrat Ali was around, he was like Allah, like a type of a trinity type of thing. So until this point in time, remember that the Muslims had the image of being invincible because they were a huge army, etc. But upon this encouragement, this prompting of Nasiruddin Tusi, and of this encouragement of Al-Qama, etc., they decided they want to give it a shot. So what he done was, first he sent a first group, and this group then surrounded and it besieged Baghdad. And then and to test the waters to see what it is. When he saw here the Muslims are not really putting up a big resistance, then he came with his main army, right? And he because the Shias that hated the Sunnis, they were inside Baghdad, they were giving information about what was happening, that the armies are not here, etc., etc. And then this Al-Qama, that was the what you say the wazir when Halaku Khan came and he surrounded the whole of Baghdad, he said, "Look, you have to go out. In their culture, you have to go out to speak to him. Then they will respect you. You can't expect him to come in. You must go out. You must go out to speak to him. If you go out and speak to him, then they will take you serious." And he also encouraged him that you must go alone. You can't go with any army with you. You must go alone. Okay, let's stop there. I see the time is almost up. And then there's a new section is starting, so we'll stop there, inshallah.